Hello and welcome back to today's episode of Colorful Language. I'm your host, Deanna Abassi, and today I want to talk to you guys about fashion over consumption. This is a topic that me and my friends are really, really passionate about, and I feel like it's so important as, a young girl, a young person experiencing and exploring all that fashion has to offer us, all that personal style evolution and self-expression open up for us. Gender expression, gender comfort are available to us through our clothing, but it's such a massive part of our rising culture of overconsumption and consumption focus, and B, our pollution of our planet. And so finding a way to fuse our passion for self-expression and art and fashion with our dedication to ethical and mindful use of our fabrics, of our clothes, of our money, of our time, so that the things we buy can serve us rather than these millionaires and billionaires who are trying to utilize us for their own growth. So there are a couple things that I want to talk about today. Um, and I'm testing out a new format where also, if there was a crazy loud noise for the beginning of this, I'm so sorry. I'm actually cooking while I'm making this video. So in the voiceover, you've got cooking Diana Bassi, and you're hopefully watching me create art right now, which is exciting. So we've got a little mashup going on. Um, Today's meal is a little side of just some plain white rice with some steamed dumplings I bought off Thayer Street. Yeah, I'm super excited. Let's get to it. Okay, so yeah, fashion over consumption. First, I kind of want to talk about my journey with understanding fashion. I went to a uniform only school for all of my life up until college. And so the opportunity to actually express myself through clothing was one that I cherished because it happened so infrequently. Um, And while I knew how much I sort of appreciated clothes, as I came to understand myself more, I thought that there had to be a difference between femininity and academics, or femininity and self-expression, and all of these different types of things. But sort of as I grew, I realized that self-expression through femininity, be it hyperfemininity or a nice sort of gender neutral mixture of masculinity and femininity, playing with sizing and all types of things was equally as valid and like 2 times more fun. Um, Something else that I had really struggled with in my youth was body dysmorphia. And as the only Black girl in my classes a lot of the time, or one of few, all of the time, it sort of gave me a self-conscious viewing of my body in that no matter who I was with or where I was, I felt different. A lot of my family as well struggles with their health, and sort of hearing the warnings to watch my weight made me sort of hyper aware of my body and what it looked like, especially in comparison to my peers. I was definitely one of those bodies that were a little chunky before they hit puberty. And without proper biological understanding of that, I kind of just thought I was fat. Um, and I think there's a lot to be said with fat phobia and internalized fat phobia, because while we live in a culture where we're taught not to be healthy, but to be skinny, and where bodies themselves are commodified and turned into trends, I think it's an act of rebellion to recognize that what we fear isn't the size of our bodies, it's the thought of no longer being socially useful or desirable or wanted. It's the fear of losing the capital of fitting in, of losing the access to the friends who potentially only love you when there's some sort of idealized social norm. It's the fear of the stigma associated with different body sizes, and the idea that a larger one or a smaller one means something about the internal state of your health. the misunderstanding of women of color's body mass indexes and of their health in general. It's the stigma of women of color going to the doctors, especially in America and Canada, Europe. The things that we've had to face and suffer through lead to a lot of distrust. And I think overcoming that and viewing the body is all wrapped up in one. So, in my struggles with body dysmorphia, especially right before my period, the hormonal shifts would impact my mental health. So, it's really when I started to have an understanding of how to dress my body and more authority over how I dress my body when I started being in charge of purchasing my own clothing items, of arranging my own outfits, and attending a college outside of the eye of my family or the friends who already knew me, getting a little glimpse into fashion choices and styles from all over the world changed my life in the forms of discovering my true self expression. However, as I studied international relations, my eyes were opened to the realities of fashion and of consumerism, the life cycles of fashion. Additionally, to understanding the social science behind where our textiles and fabrics come from, where they go, and how they ultimately can end up filling landfills and being crafted out of the blood, sweat, and tears of women and children who are being taken advantage of by Western or, even within their own countries by billionaires. Additionally, I gained a deeper understanding of what is a fashion cycle, what it means to admire fashion, to appreciate it. And I think too, it led to a higher appreciation of me because if my understanding of self and expression of self could be mobilized through the clothes that I wore, as I loved myself more, I put more dedication and time and care into the outfits I put on my body. So, first, let me refer back to my notes. It's a little background of my experience with fashion overconsumption. Um, so a few things that I wanted to talk about were the sheer amount of clothing that's being produced in the modern day. Right here, I've written the cycle of your clothes and why it's global. So fashion cycles used to oscillate between like every 10 to 20 years. You forever seen fashions coming into style, being replaced by new styles depending on the political and economic times, and then recirculating into fashion. And 20, I personally think 20, my friend corrected me and said 10, we'll say 10 to 20 years later. With this new era, and I am hesitant to say new because it's not necessarily new. Fast fashion and accessible fabrics and cheap clothing, it's been around for a while. But the new style of fast fashion, in that there was one sort of new age of fast fashion with the mass production of fabrics, of outfits, and the switch from handcrafted materials and items to machine produced items during the Industrial Revolution. As most of us, I'm sure you learned about that in school. Um, but later on, the demand, this is due to this new era of what we call globalization, the ability to like have connections to anywhere in the world and anyone in the world at any time. That new understanding of what it means to be alive, what it means to change and trade and exchange items, that new global conception is called globalization. And in the face of globalization, fashion has changed immensely from even just the demands of the time, the styles of the time, the craft work of a designer, to micro trends that oscillate even in 1 year, a couple of months cycles, where the lifespan from on the runway to in the department stores to available more widely and accessibly, transported to other continents and made accessible in places like India, and then eventually filling landfills has not only sped up, it's been fundamentally altered. In this era of globalization and the influx of social media and people's whose genuine influencers, whose jobs are to convince you to buy as many products as possible, as quickly as possible. No shade to those influencers. A job is a job, especially in this economy. But it's important to understand that a part of their job, a part of how they make money is to convince you to buy. I see this especially present as well in modern day marketing tactics. Not even modern day. Marketing in and of itself is designed to teach you that you're lacking something, to teach you that something's wrong with you, to teach you that your life and your body would be better with the addition of a new thing in your life. Convinces you to spend your money. But in this age of social media, rather than investments, true emphasis now is on mindless, rapid purchases, and it's had devastating consequences on our environment. The sheer amount of water that it takes to make a pair of jeans is insane. And the sheer amount of clothing that we manufacture only to have it thrown away when in a few weeks' time it's no longer desirable is insane. The turnover time. Do you guys remember when there were the style of the heart, like three hearts within a heart on everything? Everything. There are so many microtrends, cow prints, bows. The speed at which we are cycling through styles, genres, ideas, I believe truly has to do with the lack of meaning and community in our capitalist societies. Not to rag too hard on capitalism, as it offers up many opportunities and chances. However, the ways that it's been bent in its late stage to be transformed from equal opportunity for all to equal opportunity to manipulate for the purpose and profit of the one is sick. The process of stripping you of the meaning, the trust, the substance, from the focus in your own communities, from the health of your own body, to the mass production and marketing of items trying to convince you to fill your home, your mind, your eyes, and your psyche with ultimately, and this is another key part of fast fashion manufacturing, cheap items that are made out of plastic and are dangerous for your skin and well-being in factories with poorly monitored conditions and with chemicals that are serious irritants for your skin and your health. I think additionally, there's a mental damage as well, as the satisfaction of purchasing a new item, of treating yourself, isn't as wholesome anymore. It used to be that we would save up and purchase something and be grateful and glad and have it for a long time and be able to give it to our community and share in it and, benefit. But when you save up your money and the trend's already over, it encourages the hyper spending and the speedy spending of the money you work so hard for, which lowers your own perception of the value of your work. And then when you purchase it, the satisfaction span is cut so short because within 3 months, it's no longer viewed as desirable. So let's talk about some changes that we can make in our own understandings of fashion and of consumption and of usage, clothing, etc., to try and better this environmental and social system. A lot of the times we put the pressure in the wrong places. When people came to first understand and really absorb the definitions of fast fashion, there was a lot of guilting going around about shopping from Shein. And while, yes, I understand and agree that shopping fast fashion first and foremost is not the right move, it's important to place these things into context. Our enemies are not the people standing next to you, and our enemies are not ourselves or our friends. The realities of being low income in America are real, and you can't always afford that $50 sweater that's available for $5 online. But it's important to be cognizant of the communities and small businesses that you might be harming due to the theft of their designs, only to be rapidly and cheaply sold on Shein, as well as yourself that you're harming with the purchase of these items, and potentially the child that you're harming. However, just shifting away from fast fashion is not enough. And the goal isn't only to eliminate that personal level of guilt. The goal is to put pressure on corporate conglomerates to actually serve us, actually provide the sizes that we need, to actually provide the quality of clothing that we stand for, and to provide it in a way to take the costs out of their own overstuffed paychecks and put it towards fair pay for their employees and fair prices for their consumers. So, typical resolutions to the fashion overconsumption reality is thrifting. In my opinion, thrifting isn't just enough because this leads to its own challenges. Thrift stores have begun hiking up their prices as thrifting becomes yet another trend in our society, another proof of your goodness, another thing to show off to the people around you. Baby tees, baby tees became a micro trend due to their influence on TikTok and their resurgence after the 2000s. This led to items being gone in the kids section that mothers needed to buy. It leads to the hiking up of children's clothes, but again, the complete absence of children's clothes because grown adults are buying them and taking them off of a child's back. And additionally, there's become a fusion of this cheap fast fashion in thrift stores. We're finding brief trends like Stanley Cups in these thrift stores and hiked up in price. So I think that thrift stores aren't just enough. While it's great to go thrifting, again, as the thrifting companies have realized it's profitable to take advantage of the people who are in need of this community resource, they're hiking up prices and making it impossible to utilize. So I believe it's important to emphasize and attend community clothing swaps, friend and family clothing inheritance, and mindful online shopping. I think a huge issue within fast fashion, because again, in many cases and for many people, be that for sizing or financial reasons, it's one of very few options, if not one of the only options. And in this day and age, fast fashion is near impossible to ignore or avoid. Just because you're not shopping at Shein, you just went to Forever 21 or H&M or Nike or Adidas. Your hands aren't clean. None of ours are. But I believe that through mindful resource management and consumption, we can at least start to make a change in our own lives, in our own mindsets, which will alter the ways we view ourselves, our practices when we consume and purchase, the lifespan of our content, and the sourcing of our joy in other things that aren't material. It'll make us reinvest in our friends and communities and just sort of change the way fundamentally that we view purchasing.
Bald. He's bald now.
So that's what I mean by mindful usage of online shopping and fast fashion purchases.
Wow.
You see, and this is a conversation that's been harped on,
I just got
the
chills.
Shein hauls, watching people, you know, buy $500 worth
There's
of clothing on Shein and gouge themselves on plastic and wasted water. If you need to shop on Shein, when you need to shop on Shein, when you need to shop online, when you need to shop in stores. Personally, what I do is try and take stock of what I already have, where I can find something similar to the item I want. I take into account how long I've been wanting an item similar to the one I'm about to buy or I'm contemplating purchasing. And I take all of those factors into account. I look and take a breath before I buy, and I look into my bank account and see, like, do I have the money to be purchasing what I want? Is it fit into my plan for my monthly budget? All these types of things. And by the time you've taken that breath and evaluated and also looked into how frequently you've purchased a fast fashion item in the past year, I went on a 1 year hiatus. Actually, it was longer than 1 year. I'd say a 1 year hiatus from fast fashion purchases and a 2 year, not 3 year hiatus from Shein purchases. And that's a privilege. I was able to find clothing elsewhere. I had the community to help me put clothes on my back. I had the resources and the abundance already to feel beautiful in the items I wore. My body weight and size wasn't really fluctuating. You know, I didn't start transitioning. There are a lot of factors that go into what we wear and our ability to utilize our wardrobes, and I recognize that. So I take into account what I'm able to do, and I do my best to live up to that. And, and when I do buy, I follow the things I outlined above. All right, what else? I wanted to talk a little bit about poverty, and how it makes it difficult to prevent overconsumption. One of my family members had only a few dresses, and they made their own clothes or had family members make them, or they wore hand-me-downs. It wasn't because they were thrifty, it wasn't for environmental awareness, and it wasn't new age, hippy dippy, leftist, we're going to save the world. It was because they were poor. And it's difficult conceptualizing the need to buy less, especially when you have that familial trauma of only having less. You want, with what little money you have, the dignity of wearing something new. Your plus size or wear a unique size that's difficult to find in in-person stores and impossible to find in thrift stores. It's especially weighing on you. And I believe that everyone deserves the luxury of feeling beautiful. And this talk that I'm talking isn't about being perfect. Ultimately, the pressure is on large corporations to better their human rights practices, pay their employees a livable wage so child labor in the extreme is no longer necessary for a family to stay afloat, to choose alternate textiles, fabrics, and materials so that our jewelry, shoes, and clothing are not covered in someone else's blood or health, to slow manufacturing to match actual rather than forecasted demand, and to place the cost of raising wages in their own pockets rather than on the consumers. Some additional ways that we can help fashion consumerism is by knowing what fabrics last. We should opt for natural fabrics like 100% cotton, wool, cashmere, or linen. These typically wear better on the body and get less smelly over time. They have a higher quality, they last longer, and they can give the illusion of expense. They have a lower environmental impact. Polyester is plastic. It does not biodegrade and it lingers forever. Can you imagine the impact of wearing that on your skin? It's literally, we can apply life altering, body altering hormones. dermalogically, you can apply them on top of your skin, and they are absorbed into your bloodstream. To be clothing yourself in plastic can't be safe. It also results in more plastic in our water, as well as more waste from its production and polluting our environment and leading to asthma in our children. We have to stop drinking plastic and we have to stop absorbing plastic. We need to buy natural fabrics. Additionally, when you shop online in thrift stores, especially in thrift stores, I know it can be hard to find the items you're looking for, but these types of tips help. Again, opting for natural fabrics in thrift stores, knowing which items to look for, and if you have to buy online, opting for natural fabrics makes sure that the clothing you buy is higher quality, longer lasting, looks better, feels better for you for longer, and is a staple you're able to implement into your wardrobe rather than a piece you throw out like 1 year down the line, 3 months down the line. And when you shop, you have to know what to look for. You're looking for loose stitching, loose threads, free fading, or a cheap look like stiff material or overly thin material. Another tip that can help make your love of your clothes last longer and make you feel better in the clothing you purchase is to understand the importance of tailoring and body dimensions. You'll like your outfits a lot more and they'll fit your vision a lot better if you understand the purpose of silhouettes. If you're fortunate enough to be able to sew, you have the power to turn your clothes into specifically your clothes, into something that looks perfect on you and your body. For me, learning what I liked in clothing, I like a lot of draping. I like comfortable fabrics. I like soft fabrics with long wear. Knowing to choose those things and which parts of my body I want to be wearing something oversized on versus something tight, knowing how it affects my body dimensions and the look of my silhouette, to be wearing something tight on top and on bottom, something flowy on top and on bottom, something oversized, what shoes to put with it, how I style my hair with it, where my shirt falls. Do I want it to hit at my waist, at my hips? And additionally, understanding the importance of tailoring isn't just taking your clothes to the tailor. It's knowing that that oversized full t-shirt in the back of your closet can be cropped, can have the sleeves cut off, can have a little notch put into the neckline, can be tied up, and knowing the difference of tying it on the front, the side, tucking it in the back, you can turn any piece of clothing into your perfect clothing item with tailoring, and it can turn any outfit into your Pinterest board. Additionally, you shouldn't be afraid to shop in the men's section. Higher quality, better pockets, superior materials, and longer lasting items are found there. Consumerism is sexist. It imagines and pressures women to buy more faster. Think about how much money you lose that way. For me, I think about the work that went into making the item and all the lives of the people who wore the clothes before me. Right now, I'm in my uncle's sweatshirt, and I love my uncle, and it makes me really happy. It gives you an idea of, oh, and another additional, an important note. When you think about the work that went into making the item, it prevents you from being catfished online. If you see something that looks hand embroidered, that was hand quote unquote crocheted, you know crocheted items need to be handmade. And you're seeing that for $2, it's not gonna be a good it's not gonna be a good dress. It's gonna fall apart when you get it, if you get it. And if you get it and it's made of paper, don't be shocked. It also makes you more grateful for your clothes when you think about how much time and effort went into it. And my last piece of advice is to shop for timeless pieces. This will last you longer throughout the eras. And when inevitably that style comes back, you'll be ready.
Cutting out the woman on the front cover, cutting out the man on the back cover, and giving her his clothing. And if you look closely in the little details, her lip is peeling because of how cold it is. And here inside of her dress, it says, "This story begins with Douglas." More words about Frederick Douglass are on the rest of her dress. Living within a state where not everything is quite right. Under her hood, in her ears, I cut out the hole in her ears that's made to listen, and I turned it inside out. So quite literally, this part of her ear is turned inside out on both sides, but the other one is covered. I like that this one is more interactive. And it's just filled with, her ears filled with names. And that's how it felt to be alive as a Black person, you know, during 2016 and 2020, the Black Lives Matter movements. You know, being told America is a wonderland. Anyway, I don't want to give too much away from this work. Let me know how it makes you feel in the comments. Thank you for watching. Additionally, I forgot to mention that each piece of the collage is held down with Eco Styler for Black History Month. Okay.
Thank you guys for
See you soon.
listening, and I hope you have a great day. Bye. See you next time.